Yeah, welcome to another edition of the M365 Podcast. Today's guest is someone who combines deep technical expertise with business leadership and also a famous singer. Joe Griffin is the CEO of ProMX UK and Microsoft Inner Circle partner and one of the most respected voices in the Microsoft business application community. Joe holds more than 40 certifications across Dynamics, Power Platform, Azure AI, and the a wider Microsoft cloud. He has also become a Microsoft MVP since 2002 and regularly shares his knowledge at conferences, user groups around the world. His specialist area is Dynamics 365 project operations, particular technical implementations, solution architecture, and Azure integrations. Today, we will explore the challenges organizations face with moving from project online, how modern project management is evolving, and where AI fits into the future of project delivery. So I say, welcome, Joe, to the show.
Welcome. Wow, what an intro. That's really great. Thank you so much. Oh, have you permanently following me all the time to introduce me? That's great.
Yeah, for listeners who may not know your background, can you tell us about your journey into the Microsoft ecosystem and a little bit about how you became the CEO of Pro MX UK?
Yeah, sure. So I started my life out as a sort of a humanities humanities student. So fun fact about me, I've got a bachelor's in history and then a master's degree in ancient history. All that education obviously meant I was quite poor by the end of it. So I needed to find a job, and I kind of just fell into IT, doing like desktop support and stuff like that. And then I started to get more and more involved with the Microsoft side of things like SQL Server, .NET, C Sharp, all that sort of good stuff. And then for the end user that I was working with at the time, we implemented and rolled out Dynamics CRM 2015. It was Service Pack 2 or something like that. And then from there, I kind of fell in love with Dynamics, started to work with that. Eventually, then moved across to the partner side. And today, yeah, I sort of head up the UK practice for ProMX. We're sort of a bigger partner headquartered in Germany. Around that, and then around about sort of 2017, 2016, I've started to get involved in the community here in the UK, the Microsoft user groups, as a public speaker, did quite a bit of blogging and stuff like that. And then, yeah, the rest is kind of history. So I think what's really great is that there is such a strong community on the Microsoft side, particularly on the business application side of things. Lots of really great people, all looking to sort of help out, get involved, and to really help, and to really ensure that people get the most out of these investments and stuff like that. So it's been a real privilege to be involved for the length of time that I have, and long may it continue.
Yeah. You hold over 30 Microsoft certifications. What drives your passion for continuous learning?
I think it started off because I was trying to get more into doing dynamics and things sort of as on a full time sort of basis after I sort of implemented it for kind of the end user. So certifications for me became a really great way for me to learn about a topic, to give me a bit of a drive towards learning towards things, and as well when it then came to interviews at the time, when it came to potential job opportunities, it was a good topic that I could sort of speak about. Oh, okay, I've been revising for these exams. I've been sort of taking these exams in my sort of spare time. It's just a nice sort of conversation piece in those interview scenarios. Today as well, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer as well. So in order to be able to teach a course, you need to have held the relevant certification. So for that reason, it's a good way to sort of keep on top of what's happening, particularly with AI. A lot of things change at the moment, so every week it feels like there's new things. Exams can be a good way of keeping up to date there.
Yeah. And how has being Microsoft MVP and MCT influenced your career perspective on technology?
It's really, in terms of moving my career forward, it's been quite sort of transformational from a technology standpoint. It's also been able to get a bit of a window in terms of, okay, what's happening with the technology. The most valuable professionals are quite fortunate in that we're all kind of invited to an event every year called the MVP Summit over in Redmond, and that gives a really good opportunity to sort of get a window in terms of what Microsoft are kind of doing. A lot of it is under strict sort of NDA, so it's not something that we can kind of talk about. But yeah, being able to have those conversations, being able to influence kind of the roadmap and kind of the thinking there, I think is really sort of great. And helps in terms of when we're sort of guiding and advising customers about where they need to be focused on next.
Mm, awesome. Yeah, you are uh, an expert on Microsoft Dynamics 365 project operations. For those who unfamiliar with it, what exactly is it?
So it's one of the Dynamics 365 sort of modules. It's kind of a weird one. It's kind of technically an ERP on the ERP side of things when it comes to Dynamics, but it's actually mainly sort of provided through the sort of the customer engagement sort of side
Mm.
of things as well. So it's hosted on Dataverse. It's model-driven app, all this sort of good stuff. Basically, if you as an organization are delivering or selling projects frequently, you need to be doing things like work breakdown structure planning. If you need to be doing things like time entries, managing contracts, expenses, and drive through into sort of invoicing on either a pro forma or an actual sort of basis, then yeah, project operations is kind of the module for us, for you, I would say. So, typically we find project professional services organizations, people who are delivering quite sort of big initiatives and projects. It's a really good fit there for the project operations kind of module. So yeah, uh, as I say, it also is unique as well because it brings in some capability from the Microsoft Planner side. So the whole planner board, task breakdown board is sort of integrated very closely into the sort of the project as well. So for those people who are maybe familiar working with Project Desktop, Project Operations provides a nice way of being able to kind of, modernize what you're doing, have it stored in a nice sort of structured database, and then, benefit from everything that I've kind of spoken about already.
And what business problems do project operations solve better than, yeah, say traditional project management tools? So Microsoft has, yeah, a lot of tools.
Yeah. So it's all about just helping to deliver our projects on time, be able to manage our budgets. If it's quite a big initiative, we can configure budgets as part within the application. As well, the application will also support the ability to do things to also tap into AI functionality. So, for example, we have a few different co-pilots and agents now. We can generate status reports very easily. We've got a time entry agent that can go and automate the creation of all of your different sort of time entries and then manage those approval processes, as well as also using Copilot to go and generate work breakdown structures based on just a simple project title, description, and all that sort of good stuff. So, really addressing some of the common challenges that we need around managing projects, making sure that they can be delivered well, effectively, making sure that we can assign the right people onto the projects and have visibility around their utilization, where they're being sort of used and leveraged. Because as well, the application will also uses the universal resource scheduling (URS) functionality that you may be familiar with from things like customer service and from field service and things like that. So.
And what types of organization benefit most from implementation project operations?
As mentioned, professional services is where we see a lot. So, partners like us, for example, so we use project operations ourselves sort of internally. We also have clients as well working in different sort of industries. So, gas and oil. We also have other so we have sort of examples of sort of train organizations, infrastructure companies, and things like that who also use it as well. So I think if you, as an organization, if you're delivering projects regularly, big projects, almost to the point of maybe, maybe multi thousands or maybe multi millions of euros, then it's going to be a good fit for you to consider having project operations in the mix.
And what are, yeah, I say, some typical misconceptions organization have before adopting the platform?
I think that some misconceptions that they maybe have, it's kind of an interesting sort of module because it kind of sits between both the CE and the ERP side of things. So maybe when they approach it for the first time, they'll say, "Oh, this is just one of an ERP apps, therefore it's going to be clunky. It's going to be difficult to implement. It's not really for a business of our sort of side." And in actual fact, most of the functionality in project operations is driven by the customer engagement side of the platform. And this means that it's then leveraging all of the Power Platform functionality. So it becomes quite easy for us to go tailor, create some flows, Power Automate flows, modify Dataverse, modify the data schema, and to extend things out very nicely and very easily. So yeah, definitely that's a big misconception around okay how difficult it is to sort of roll this out. In actual fact, you can deploy project operations in kind of the core mode where you don't have any ERP sort of dependency, and then you can from there go and integrate with any ERP system that you issues, or indeed just run it in complete isolation on the CE platform.
Yeah. And one of your areas of expertise is helping organization migrate from project online, or migrate from project online. Why are the companies evaluate that move today?
So you may have seen the announcement, you may not have heard of it. So hopefully it's not a huge surprise when I'm saying this. But yeah, Project Online is going to be kind of retired a little bit later on this year. By the end of September is going to be a case that if you're still using Project Online,
Mm,
and the Project Online, just to be clear, that's the one that's using SharePoint behind the scenes. There are a few different products that are quite similar, similar sort of names. So if you're using the Project Online, which is based on SharePoint, which also has a dependency and allows you to integrate with Project Desktop. Then after September, the solution will be retired, and all of your data on there will then become kind of read only. So, if you're wanting to continue to have the same kind of functionality available, you're going to have to consider moving to a different sort of option. Microsoft have kind of got three routes that they provided, or through three ways in which you can sort of do this. The first is that you can use Microsoft Planner um,
mm,
as one solution. You can potentially go back on premise using Project
mhm.
Server as an alternative, or the third option, and the one that I would recommend for obvious reasons, based on what we described, would be Project Operations. So, yeah, if your organization currently relies on Project Online in a significant sort of way, then you very much need to be starting to have those conversations about how you can kind of manage this transition and move across to an alternative solution.
But they must have dynamics in the company to use project operations or.
Correct, yeah. So for any of the options that you go down, whether it's Planner, whether it's Project Server or Project Operations, then yeah, you need to have the licenses and all this sort of stuff. Going back on premise for all of this is probably not a route that I would kind of advise. Certainly, if you're as an organization wanting to start to leverage artificial intelligence more, and I think as well long term, the project server offering I think will eventually be retired because there's not going to be two investments towards that sort of moving forward. Planner can do a pretty good job in terms of what you're sort of doing. It does support the ability to integrate with Power Platform, but generally we find that for a lot of organizations who are using Project Online, who are reliant on features like time entries and the more complex kind of work breakdown structure requirements, we tend to find that Project Operations provides a better long-term sort of fit and means that you don't have to go and build a whole bunch of functionality from scratch. Project Operations has that all sort of available for you.
And what are the most common challenges organization encountered during the migration project?
Data complexity. I don't know about you, but I've seen some pretty weird and wonderful project desktop MPP files in my time. Lots of different tasks, kind of many different sort of resource assignments, complex task dependencies, all of this sort of good stuff. So the challenge that we tend to find usually is around the data. How can we sort of maybe use it as an opportunity to simplify things? It's something to be kind of aware of with project operations is that there are, some sort of limits in terms of things like, okay, the number of tasks for a project, number of resource assignments supported, task dependencies, and things like that. So it does means that certain organizations will need to maybe look at how they're building their MPP files, how they're building their work breakdown structures, and just see if there's an opportunity there to kind of simplify that. Because as well, from a data migration standpoint, there are some considerations around that we need to be kind of mindful of, and again, can be another challenge here. So if you're wanting to, for example, take a project, take an MPP file and kind of import that in, you can do that in the tool. That is possible to do on a per project desktop file sort of basis. But if you're wanting to migrate maybe hundreds or maybe thousands of different sort of projects, then you're going to have to go and automate that potentially. And this is where we need to look at how we can leverage something known as the schedule API in the tool. The schedule API is basically will give us the ability to go and create the appropriate objects in project operations, like our projects, project tasks, our resource assignments, and all that sort of good stuff. Because we're not allowed to, in the application, to go and directly write to those tables. We have to go through what's called the PSS sort of service, which then just ensures that, okay, creates the data both on the Dataverse side and also on the planner board, and everything's kind of correct from that sort of standpoint. So that can be another challenge that organizations have. Okay, how can we migrate all of these projects in bulk? How can we successfully sort of use the schedule API in a good sort of way, and really just ensure that we can migrate all this data successfully?
And what data migration pitfalls should companies watch out for?
Sorry, could you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. What data migration pitfalls should companies watch out for?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again, as I mentioned, complexity. So trying just to keep things simple, stupid. KISS is always going to be a good thing over here. So use the migration as an opportunity to kind of simplify what you're doing. Is there a reason why your work breakdown structures are so sort of complex? You also need to think about things like, okay, how can we map out our resource and our resource profiles in a really good way in the tool? So we have to, for example, consider how we go and create bookable resources, how we create roles and skills, and characteristics for those resources to represent their sort of skills, and making sure that is all sort of done as well. Many organizations will need to ensure that they've got the appropriate dev test production environments configured
Mm,
there. So again, thinking about how we can kind of ensure the data is aligned accordingly, configuration data and all this sort of stuff is aligned. The
mm,
good news is that there's tooling available in the platform, things like, for example, the configuration migration tool that we can use to help us with that sort of process. But it's definitely something that we need to think about so we can ensure that we're aligning data correctly. We can test things in the correct sort of way, and that when we do our deployment to production, all of our kind of ducks are in a row. Everything is configured correctly for us to be successful.
and what does a successful migration project look like from your perspective?
From my perspective, if we can get all the projects moved across, if project managers can do their job, they can go and plan their projects effectively. They can assign their resources, and they can ultimately make sure they're delivering their projects on time and on budget. Then I think that's a pretty good success criteria for me, because that is the key thing that the tool can support you in doing.
And how do you approach, I say, stakeholder adaptation and change management?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have to always try and take people on the journey with us. Show them the benefits of the tool. Engage early on with those sort of key personas. Look to see what we can do in terms of maybe identifying some champions within the sort of company who can kind of help drive things sort of forward, and really just focus on what we can do to make the user interface, make the processes as easy and straightforward as possible. And this is the good thing about the fact that we can tap into the Power Platform. It's possible for us to go and build out these custom interfaces. We can use technologies like, for example, custom pages to maybe provide a more streamlined interface. With what we have now from an AI standpoint, it's possible for us to maybe do things like build vibe out applications, build out some web interfaces that can then be sort of then taken forward, and then again can really simplify things from that sort of standpoint. So it's going to be important that we sort of look at each sort of organization's processes, try and align to what the tool supports natively out the box as much as possible, but then beyond that, using what we have in the Power Platform to do those deviations away, make it easy and straightforward for the company in question, for the users to be able to get their job done.
Yeah, can you share a memorable migration success story or lesson learned without explaining the client?
Yeah, we have one of our US clients that this was done. I wasn't involved myself in the project. It was one of my team members, sort of colleagues. But yeah, we were able to, in the end, migrate across all the projects. We built out a whole bunch of scripting that's targeted the scheduled API. We were able to then ensure that that was then able to be run repeatedly. And we were able to sort of do over several different kind of iterations, test migrations and things like that. So, there in the end, we were able to sort of get everything migrated across successfully with no sort of issues. The fact that we were able to, make those scripts sort of repeatable really kind of helped as part of that. We could very quickly and easily, spin up an environment, run the scripts, check to see that everything sort of worked there. And as well, we were able to handle the sheer volume of data by making sure these scripts could be run, in a virtual environment, can be run in the background and stuff like that, and to ensure they're targeting the supported APIs that Microsoft give, the schedule API and things like that.
And is there, I don't know, something or companies can prepare for a successful migration project?
I think it's going to be a case of looking at what you have from an MPP, from a project desktop sort of standpoint. So Microsoft do provide some resources online that sort of talks through, okay, the what is supported, what isn't supported when we're sort of migrating things. So looking at that very carefully is going to be useful as part of your sort of processes. Um, and as well, just try and use it as an opportunity to simplify things and maybe as well challenge the ways of working. Okay, well, why are we having such complex work breakdown structures? Why are we having, so many different sort of resource assignments? Do we need to have this level of complexity from a dependency standpoint? I think it's always a good opportunity as part of any migration to actually take a step back and actually critically look at, okay, you know, is there a good business reason why we're doing things this way, or are we just doing this way because we've always done it and we don't want to rock the boat or cause any problems by deviating away from that?
Yeah, I see also Microsoft is, yeah, embedding AI across every application,
Yeah,
or its
exactly.
whole stack. How do you see AI transforming project operations especially?
I think I mentioned some of the functionalities already. So I quite like at the moment things like the time entry agent, which is a really good use case there because it's for organizations like ours, partners, professional services organizations, time entries, having to do all of that on a week to week basis. It's the job that we hate, but the job that we have to do in order to be able to sort of ensure that we can invoice and generate revenue for the business. So the great thing about the time entry agent is that it can automate a lot of those key sort of steps. It can go and look at what we have in terms of our existing resource assignments, our Outlook appointments. It can go and preemptively sort of generate those time entries in kind of a draft form based on what it thinks we're going to be doing and working on. From there, the agent can then sort of come to life at the right point of the week. It can sort of say, "Okay, hey Joe, here are all your time entries for the week ahead. Go and review them, make sure they look okay." And then go and submit them from there. And as well, the agent can then handle the okay, chasing up of people. If I've not done anything there, after a few days, you can sort of knock on my door and go, Joe, you need to go and submit your time entries. So really reducing the need for somebody in the organization to have to go around and basically chase everyone for that information. Once the time entry is then submitted in the tool itself, we can then configure additional artificial intelligence capability to then handle the approvals process. And that can be done based on a policy document. And then the agent can just go and preemptively sort of approve or reject time entries, as long as it meets the criteria, the boundaries for our organization. So these are usually very laborious processes, very time intensive sort of processes, requiring human intervention to sort of do this. And all of this can now be kind of automated quite nicely with agents. So I really like the potential there that sort of shows for the technology.
So those helps especially in resource planning. Is there also, I say, Copilot for forecasting a project?
Yeah, so there's tools there in terms of being able to generate the status reports. We can also do things like get suggestions for resources. So when we're going and planning for a project, we can basically get a list of people who we think are going to be a good fit based on previous sort of project performance, based on their current availability, and we get kind of like a scorecard there that kind of just outlines in terms of what is possible there. So a lot of investments going into the AI functionality at the moment, particularly for project operations. So I think the future is going to be quite exciting there in terms of what we see in future.
Yeah, I think also, I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's also be awesome if AI can help, yeah, to see project risk or when time risk. I think this could also be an interesting, uh, yeah, case for AI.
Yeah, so it does that today actually. So at any point when the project's in delivery, you can go in and basically generate a series of risks for the project. It goes and looks at the data in the tool already. It looks at the assignments, the time entries, what's been submitted, whether we're close to budget or over budget and stuff like that, and then we'll go and generate those risks for you. So that is a feature that's been there for a while now, and yeah, can be sort of run and executed at any time. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what role will you say plays the Power Platform? in, yeah, I say extending project operations?
It's an important component, and one that we do very often on projects. So having all of that Power Platform functionality there at our feet means that we can go and, for example, if we want to build an external website that allows maybe contractors to go and submit time entries, we can use Power Pages to build that out. If we need a more complex report, we can go and use Power BI to help us with that. As mentioned already, we can do database schema level changes quite sort of easily and straightforwardly into Dataverse, and then go and build out custom app interfaces using Power Apps. So a lot of potential there to use the Power Platform, and it really just help us, when we need to sort of tailor the application for more specific needs.
And how did we handle governance and compliance, especially in project operations?
So all of that, if again, falls back onto the Power Platform sort of capability. So we know that, for example, we can use features like data loss prevention policies to allow or disallow certain connectors. We know that we've got the full capabilities of Dataverse from a role-based access control standpoint. So we can use things like business units, security roles, teams. We can even encrypt specific columns using column security sort of profiles. And then we know that, at the Power Platform level, at the admin center level, these are just Dataverse environments. So everything that Dataverse gives us, things like managed environments, things like pipelines, to handle application lifecycle management processes, all of that is it immediately sort of supported, with no additional sort of hurdle that we have to go over.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, we have Copilot Studio, or I think really new is Copilot Scout, I think, with the agents. Is there also a capability for this in, yeah, in project operations?
Yeah, so Copilot Studio, we can go build our own custom agents. We then can go and connect that into Dataverse directly. So for more specific scenarios that we want to work with, then it becomes very easy to build those out. As well, all of the first-party agents that Microsoft provide to us. So, for example, the time entry agent that I mentioned sort of before, that can also be customized as well by us. So if we want to go and extend things out, maybe have some additional scenarios that the time entry agent can sort of support, then we can go and do that very easily and very straightforwardly.
And did you think, the AI could also become a project manager, or, is there need a human in the loop?
I think we're moving into that direction. The technology today can certainly sort of support it. I think it's always going to be a case that we need to have these processes fully auditable, where there'll be certain scenarios where we do need to get human approval there. Maybe if it is a sort of a scenario that we don't see too often, maybe an edge case sort of process and things like that. But yeah, I think it's possible that for PMO type level roles, for somebody who's maybe working in the PMO office who's responsible for just going and chasing sort of time entries, that sort of function can be sort of eliminated. We're still going to need to have the project manager kind of involved there. But it's going to hopefully allow them to be in a situation where they can manage, things on maybe a 10x basis, so they can manage more projects more easily. And they're using AI to kind of just help them to manage all of that, at a much more grander scale.
If Microsoft comes tomorrow and says, "Hey, Joe, you get all, the money you need, the employees," what feature will you, develop, in Dynamics 365 project operations?
Oh, that is a good question. I would certainly like to. I have to think now. Actually, I think there's definitely some good stuff coming in terms of the field service integration, which is looking quite sort of good. It would be really nice to sort of have it so have we sort of tailor out some aspects of the planner board. So to be able to support additional sort of capabilities, we often see that that the planner capabilities are not quite on a par with Project Desktop. So I probably focus my attention on trying to make that a bit more sort of expansive, make it easier for us to maybe go and export out into Project Desktop, and then go and import back into the tool, because those are kind of the scenarios that we see a lot of project managers wanting to do very regularly. I think it would make them happy if they could do that.
Mm. And yeah, your expertise also include the Azure integrations. What role does Azure play in a modern project operation solution?
So very often, if we are doing more complex kind of integrations, more complex things involving the schedule API, where we need to go and perhaps create a whole bunch of project tasks or resource assignments and things like that, then what we can do is we can offload that processing into Azure. We can have, for example, Azure Aware plugins. We can tap into Azure Service Bus for asynchronous sort of processing, and then from there go and have that sort of scale there to be able to handle those more complex integrations. As well, if we're typically, and we've done this for a few projects, if we're integrating with external ERP systems, then again, Azure allows us to build out the patterns and the frameworks to be able to handle those sort of integrations, be able to process them, be able to scale them accordingly, and also as well to be able to ensure that we've got that traceability for every change that we're doing. We can ensure it's processed in first in, first out type sort of order. Again, using Service Bus and other tools to handle all of that.
Mm. And how do you balance customizations with maintaining a supportable and scalable architecture?
Yeah, it's sometimes you do have to push back, try and make sure that we can fit the process around the sort of system as much as possible, and where necessary, deviate away and use supported customizations only. So use the Power Platform. Don't be writing custom code. Don't be writing plugins too often. You don't be using JavaScript and things like that. Use the supported extensibility points within the Power Platform, the ability to customize forms and views and stuff like that, and that would just mean that we have an easier road. And as well, the solution will just become a lot more easily maintainable as well for the end customer, which is going to help with adoption long term.
Yeah. What are the trends in Dynamics 365 and business application? Yeah, we should prepare for now.
We're in an interesting sort of place at the moment because it's anybody who's got GitHub Copilot could go spend a weekend and they could go and vibe code themselves their own sort of CRM sort of system. It's possible today with technology to kind of do that. So then the obvious question from there kind of emerges: okay, well, why do we still need SaaS? Is SaaS dead, as some people keep claiming as part of that? When we can just build our own apps, our own sort of things that we can then sort of run from there. I still think that, although we can do a lot in terms of building our own bespoke apps and things like that, there is still, potentially huge gaps there for things like security, gaps there in terms of, okay, how is the app actually scalable? Is it able to sort of support all of that?
Mhm.
So I very much think that, there's still going to be a place for having, a platform that's going to give you all of that, so potential future I could foresee is, okay, well, yeah, you can vibe code your apps, but then you're using the Microsoft sort of offering and the solution to basically host that,
Yeah.
and Microsoft then provides you with the ability with coverage. They'll make sure that thing. That secure authentication is in place. They'll make sure that maybe any smells, any problems with your code are kind of fixed. Close any sort of security loopholes. That could be potentially a future that we could see with this sort of platform. Certainly, at least based on where the technology is looking, how the technology is looking today, and where the future could be.
What is when the company will start their journey in project operations? What is the first recommendation you can give them?
First recommendation is to look at the out of the box process, focus on that as much as possible, see how we can align towards that as much as sort of possible, and sort of prepare yourself to sort of to keep things as simple as straightforward as possible. As with any of these sort of SaaS sort of products, the more we kind of deviate away from the standard functionality, the more potential challenges and risks that we may see in the project itself. So just try and make sure we can align to what is there as much as possible, and deviate away only if there's a good business reason, business justification for doing so.
And I think when we think about AI, there are a lot of company don't see the real outcomes of AI. Um, how how can we measure the outcomes from AI? Or what are KPIs, or how can we measure it?
Well, it's gonna be driven by probably, cost saving, time saving. Usually there's a distinction between, okay, the amount of money we save, the amount of time, we save. I'd argue, time is money. So, having that sort of fair comparison there, if we can demonstrate technology has made a huge impact from a time saving standpoint, if we can show that the technology has allowed us to process more work, handle more caseload, deliver our projects more on time, more on budget, and things like that. These are kind of the sweet spot metrics that we want to be sort of looking towards. How's the technology helped us to improve our delivery of a certain sort of function, and how has that then resulted in more positive experience for either the businesses or for the customers that we're sort of working with.
Yeah, we have also, I think, the Copilots, but that's also Azure AI Foundry. What role plays the Azure AI Foundry in yeah in integration?
So Microsoft Foundry, that'll be probably for scenarios where, okay, you need to have more control. Maybe you're taking more of a pro code sort of route. For our purposes, if you are maybe an ISV, independent software vendor, you wanted to build agents that you want to then sort of make available to end customers, then for me, Foundry is probably the option that you want to be considering as part of that. So we're doing a lot of investigations into that at the moment, in terms of, okay, how we can potentially leverage and use this technology. It'll be maybe kind of a sort of watch this space around all of this. But certainly with Foundry, you get a lot in terms of additional capability, the ability to really tailor your agent experience. I think as well the ability to use the model that's best for your particular scenario. So it may be that, okay, the OpenAI models are not good, not sufficient for what you need. Maybe there's a specific, Anthropic model. There's a specific maybe DeepSeek or Grok model that's going to be more preferable for you. And as well, in the Foundry side, you can start to do things like maybe fine tuning the model as well, train it on your own business data, and therefore it's then going to be a lot more valuable. You can then reduce your token costs and stuff like that. So those are some of the advantages that I see that Foundry bringing to the equation.
Mm, and how organizations combine Dynamics project operations with Fabric, Dataverse, and Azure. Did you think it will be an undefined solution in the future?
I think so, and that's again the other advantage of allowing from the Microsoft standpoint, because we can very easily, for example, configure Fabric Think from our Dataverse environment, and then get that data out into Fabric. Fabric then becomes kind of our principal and central knowledge source for everything to do in the organization, and can then be used by any agents that we create, in order to be able to sort of answer authoritative questions about the organization itself. So certainly, if you're thinking about how to adopt AI, well, it does require us maybe to take a bit of a step back and sort of say, okay, well, maybe we need to first implement Fabric. Maybe we need to first make sure we're implementing Power Platform well. Look at all the different core elements, foundational elements that are going to be successful, and then from there, once they're in place, you can then sort of proceed and move forward, and really deliver and start building these agentic experiences with the best possible chance of success.
Mm, okay. And yeah, what did you think? How accurate actually AI driven um, yeah um, tools around Microsoft, are they really enterprise ready, or is it more, I say, gamification?
I think it's getting there. I think, in terms of when we're looking at all the vendors at the moment, I think certainly Microsoft is I think ahead of the game there, in terms of they are thinking about all this stuff, and they are providing the tools to help support us as part of this. Whether it's things like the responsible AI principles, whether it's the Copilot control system, Agent 365, which is now currently in GA. They're consistently thinking about, okay, what can we do from a technology standpoint to ensure that we can keep so that enterprises can sort of move forward. They can adopt this technology, in a at the pace that's going to suit them, and that we've got all the appropriate protections to ensure that, okay, we can manage things like potential jailbreaking of agents. We can handle risks around maybe data security and all this sort of good stuff. I think consistently Microsoft are always thinking in those sort of terms, and providing the broad framework and the broad tools to help address those challenges.
Yeah. Okay, let us jump in the quick fire round. So I ask yeah, I give a question, and you yeah, you give what comes on your mind. Um so what's the most underrated Dynamics 365 feature?
Ooh, most underrated exercise feature, I would say, business rules. I love business rules. Means we don't have to write custom code.
What was your most exciting Microsoft announcement in the last 12 months?
Most exciting Microsoft announcement. I really, really liked compute use agents when I saw them at Ignite. Very, very good technology and potential.
Which Microsoft product will survive longest in the zombie apocalypse?
Oh, probably Microsoft Paint.
Okay. Yeah, coffee, tea, or energy drinks during implementation.
Oh, tea, tea. I'm from the UK, so yeah, tea, English breakfast tea, milk, no sugar, and then that'll get you through to the end of the day.
Okay. What did you think and helped you more in your career, the MVP status or the MCT?
I would say being an MVP for sure, based on the opportunities that's given me.
And yeah, if you will start a new startup, what should it do?
It would probably be focused around AI adoption, advisory, and how we can sort of, as I mentioned, best set the foundations for success here.
Architecture diagrams or documentation?
Um, Documentation. I do like a good lengthy documentation.
What did you think? What's longer, the dynamic implementation or a Marvel movie marathon?
Good. Well, there's quite a lot of Marvel movies now. I probably have to say the Marvel one 'cause there's so many now. Yeah. So
If you weren't in tech, what career would you have to choose?
I would probably be one of those guys that you see doing like history walking tours in like York or London in a costume. So yeah, maybe that's what I'll do when I retire.
Yeah. And what's your, yeah, I say, go-to productivity hack?
Go-to productivity hack. I really like. Um, I put my headphones on and I usually get a podcast or some music on, and that gets me into and focused.
And yeah, what's harder, stakeholder management or technical architecture?
Stakeholder management for sure. Making sure people are on the train with you.
What's the first thing when you do start a new project?
First thing I do, yeah, make sure have an icebreaker, introduce everyone, and yeah, share some fun facts, get the team on the same page, and yeah, really sort of excited to deliver the project.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. This was, yeah, this was, I really enjoy it. This was really fun. Yeah, and yeah, for me, it's a complete new tool, the project operation. So yeah, I say, yeah, thank you, Joe, for joining me today and sharing your insights on Dynamics 365 project operations, migration strategies, Azure and yeah, integrations and the future of AI project delivery. Yeah, I think yeah, if listeners want to learn more about Joe or ProMX or Dynamics 365 operation, they can look into the show notes and see all your links. And yeah, um, yeah. So until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep exploring what's possible with Microsoft technology. So thank you for being here.
No worries. Thanks, Migo. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, goodbye, ciao.
Ciao. Bye bye.